Russia's Iskander tears through NATO's shield. 24 devastating strikes break all layers of defense. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to World Perspective News. Russia's Iskander missiles have ripped through NATO's defensive shield over Ukraine with an unprecedented wave of coordinated strikes. A total of 24 decisive blows were launched in a calculated preemptive scenario, targeting key military hubs and strategic infrastructure. Between April 15 and April 16, a series of Iskander-M ballistic missiles combined with UAV swarms formed a dense, overwhelming fire network that pushed Ukraine's air defense systems to the brink of collapse. Battlefield data indicates that nearly half of the high-speed targets penetrated interception layers, striking critical positions and turning multiple areas into prolonged fire zones throughout the night. In total, hundreds of aerial threats, including dozens of missiles and hundreds of drones, were deployed in layered waves, applying relentless pressure across the entire line. Major cities like Kyiv and Odessa were shaken by continuous explosions, while military bases, fuel depots, and defense industrial facilities became primary targets. What comes next may bring even more surprises. Stay with us. Subscribe, like, and share to stay updated. 703 overwhelming targets. Ukraine's air defense under extreme pressure. During the night of April 15 into April 16, Ukraine's skies were engulfed in a storm of firepower. Russia launched a large-scale strike package combining Iskander-M ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and hundreds of drones. According to Ukrainian data, at least 24 Iskander-M missiles were fired as part of a highly calculated operation within a total of hundreds of aerial threats detected within just 24 hours. Despite continuous interception efforts, many high-speed projectiles broke through defense lines and hit strategic targets. Nearly half of the ballistic missiles reportedly evaded interception, creating massive explosions across multiple regions. The scale of the assault is reflected in the figure of 703 aerial targets, including 19 Iskander-M missiles, 5 Iskander-K missiles, 20 Kh-101 cruise missiles, and up to 659 UAVs of various types. This multi-layered attack strategy overwhelmed defenses, jammed systems, and exploited weak points. Cities like Kyiv and Odessa became immediate focal points. Air raid sirens echoed through the night as explosions struck residential zones, ports, and industrial areas. Initial reports indicate at least 16 fatalities and over 100 injured, with widespread infrastructure damage. Precision strikes target energy and defense lifelines. Russia's Ministry of Defense confirmed the use of long-range precision weapons targeting defense industrial facilities, cruise missile production lines, UAV manufacturing, and energy infrastructure sustaining Ukraine's war effort. Fuel depots, energy facilities, ports, and military logistics hubs were locked as targets. Disrupting fuel supply impacts everything, from armored vehicles to logistics chains. Threats to electricity affect not only civilians but also military command systems and production facilities. Notably, Russia emphasized retaliation, signaling that any Ukrainian offensive capability could be countered by striking supply chains behind the front lines. This creates dual pressure, reducing combat capability while increasing the cost of sustaining war. Temporary deployment zones, equipment staging areas, and even foreign-linked forces were also targeted, expanding the scope of the operation from front lines to deep rear areas. Zelensky forced toward diplomacy as air defense struggles. Pressure has peaked as Ukraine faces limited maneuvering space. President Zelensky has shifted focus heavily toward diplomacy as air defense systems struggle under relentless attack waves. Hundreds of simultaneous targets force interception systems into a war of attrition. Each missile intercepted drains resources, and as stockpiles diminish, defense gaps begin to appear. Ukraine still intercepts most threats, but even a small percentage penetrating defenses causes significant damage. Repeated over multiple nights, this creates a cumulative weakening effect. Zelensky has intensified diplomatic efforts, pushing agreements and pressuring Western partners. However, air defense aid requires time to approve, deliver, and deploy, while attacks do not wait. This delay is becoming a critical vulnerability. U.S. pullback. Europe struggles to fill the gap. The balance is shifting as U.S. military support slows while battlefield intensity rises. Signals from Washington suggest a reduced leadership role in weapons supply, shifting the burden to Europe. While Russia maintains high-tempo attacks, Ukraine depends on delayed and inconsistent aid flows. Europe is accelerating cooperation in UAV production, but scale and speed remain insufficient. This creates a strategic imbalance. One side attacks continuously, the other responds slowly. Ukraine is forced into a reactive position both on the battlefield and in diplomacy. Strikes expand deeper, civilian damage rising. The conflict extends beyond Kyiv and Odessa. New waves of attacks have spread deeper, causing increasing civilian casualties. In Zaporizhia, a civilian worker was killed during a night strike. In Dnipro, a drone hit a residential building, injuring multiple people. As attacks hit residential areas, the line between military and civilian targets blurs, creating both security and social pressure. Infrastructure damage disrupts daily life and essential services. This is not just collateral damage, it becomes part of strategic pressure, forcing resource diversion to rescue and stabilization efforts. Logistics under siege. Odessa becomes strategic target. Southern Odessa port areas, especially near the Dnipro corridor, have become direct targets. UAV strikes hit warehouses, production zones, and administrative buildings. These are key nodes in supply chains. Disrupting them affects exports, imports, and military logistics. Ukraine relies heavily on these routes for both economic survival and military supply. Rather than total destruction, the strategy focuses on controlled disruption, forcing systems into inefficient emergency operations, gradually weakening overall capacity. Air defense exhaustion. Every night a new breach risk. Ukraine's air defense is under extreme strain. Hundreds of simultaneous targets force systems into maximum output. When Iskander missiles follow dense UAV waves, gaps begin to appear. Even small penetration rates result in critical damage. The issue is attrition. Each interceptor used reduces future capacity. Continuous double-wave attacks prevent recovery or reorganization. Russia does not need full penetration, only well-timed strikes when defenses are stretched thin. Escalation risks. War approaching uncontrollable threshold. With sustained high-intensity attacks, the battlefield becomes compressed and volatile. Any miscalculation could trigger broader escalation. Strikes now target critical infrastructure, increasing systemic risk. A misfire, overreaction, or strong retaliation could draw new actors into the conflict. The accumulation of risks, not a single event, creates the danger of losing control. Iran locks the skies. Fighters surround Trump-linked aircraft. Iran responded with a clear message: action. Amid claims of weakened air force capability, Iran deployed a large number of fighter jets to escort and surround an aircraft linked to envoys connected to Donald Trump. This was not just an escort, it was a calculated psychological demonstration of airspace control. Iranian officials firmly rejected claims of weakness, asserting full operational readiness. Tehran's ultimatum. Strait of Hormuz is strategic lever. Iran escalated further, warning that the current ceasefire is fragile and could collapse if its interests are ignored. Focus shifted to the Strait of Hormuz, a global energy chokepoint. By controlling it, Iran holds leverage capable of shaking the global economy. If maritime routes are disrupted, oil prices could surge, supply chains collapse, and global markets destabilize. U.S. blockade versus Iran counterpressure. As Iran asserts air control, the U.S. responded with maritime blockade measures, restricting access to Iranian ports. Iran countered by threatening broader regional escalation across the Red Sea, Gulf, and Arabian Sea. This creates a two-front pressure strategy. Airspace control, maritime chokepoint leverage. Together, they form a strategic pincer forcing recalculation from Washington.